everybody's telling me I'm crazy and that I'm healthy and something's not right. It wasn't until January of 2021, I had a baby and a toddler at home, and I was so chronically fatigued that I could have fallen asleep standing up.
Really?
Yeah. And so they did imaging, and that's when they found my tumor on my pancreas. Had I not advocated for myself, I would have died at home.
All right, welcome to the Real TFC podcast, where we educate and give different perspectives on local real estate trends from business owners, professionals, and others as we navigate the ever-changing world of real estate. I'm your host, Chris, and next to me here, I'm joined by lovely Michelle as we dive into the twists and turns of the complex real estate world. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing well, Chris.
Good. Hey, listen, so I've really been hearing a lot of things, like on TikTok, on social media, where these got these quick fixes to your weight and your overall health, and I'm still flipping, trying to figure out which one is going to work for me. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Same here. And every day there's a new trend.
Yeah. See, I'm still a soccer player, and I've gotten to the point where I don't feel like I don't have the time to exercise between games. I play once a week, so I'm being lazy all week, and then I go out and I run as hard as I can. And I can tell you what, for the next day, maybe two, I'm feeling it because it's just my body just isn't used to moving that fast once a week. I really think I need to, change some of my lifestyle to help lead into that hard exercise come soccer time. But I think we have a great guest coming on today, Jordan Meier, and she's got to really, I think, elaborate on what she's so passionate about, and she's an expert in her field, and maybe answer some questions for us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, great. All right, welcome to the show, Jordan Meier. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Let's go ahead and let's dive right in. Tell me a little bit about yourself, like where are you from, maybe some of your hobbies, and what you're currently doing for work, and how you got into that. So let's talk about that.
Awesome. My name is Jordan Meier. I am a functional health coach and integrative health practitioner.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I'm just a real estate agent. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
My husband, Kevin, and I, we have two boys. I have a 7-year-old named Cash and a 4-year-old named Brooks. We are a huge sports family. We love anything active, outdoors. Hockey is a very popular thing in my house. We have indoor hockey every morning, every night, anytime the kids are home. Our floors are destroyed. But in my free time, I love to read. I am a nerd, so I listen to a lot of health. I listen to a lot of health podcasts. And as far as my career goes, I have not always been in the wellness field. Actually, in fact, after college, after high school, when I was going into college, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I just opened up the book of majors and started at A and went down the line and stopped at criminal justice. So
you didn't get very far.
I didn't get very far. No. I got my degree in sociology with concentration in criminal justice, and I was a probation officer for a couple of years after college.
Oh, wow.
Until we started a family, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And like most people that are in the functional medicine space, my passion really came from my own health experiences and some things that have happened personally to me. And that really drove me to go to school and get my certifications. And I started my integrative health practice in February. Balance Wellness Co. is an integrative health practice, which means that's kind of something that a lot of people don't know much about functional health.
Yeah, we're going to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I have lots of answers. But it is a practice where we focus on really bringing clinical scientific data in with natural healing practices to really help people get to the root cause and find imbalances in their body that are causing symptoms that they're experiencing.
Okay, great. I was going to ask you to dumb it down for me, but you did a pretty good job. I think I followed that pretty well.
Yeah,
but
I did too.
Integrative health medicine, is that right?
Integrative health practitioner.
Okay,
yes.
so we're going to talk a little bit about that because I've personally, I've never heard of that. Kind of describe like what that means to normal, health practitioners. I mean, does it have like, I want to lose weight? I mean, is that something that,
Of course.
To talk to you about?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So basically, being an integrative health practitioner, that is really just a label that I've gotten through my certifications.
Okay, gotcha.
And
Understood.
that is inclusive of being a functional health coach, which means that I work with my clients on, their diet, their nutrition, their stress, their emotion, their mindset. It's much more than just diet and nutrition, which I feel like the mass majority of us kind of, if we're focusing on getting healthy, we focus on working out and we focus on eating. There's so many more pieces to the puzzle that I like to focus on, because your mindset and your emotions, all of those have such heavy impact that are often overlooked in conventional medicine. When people ask, like, what is functional medicine? Like, what is that? They've heard it. It's kind of been a buzzword. It's becoming more popular in the past year or so. I feel like it's really grown because people are just sick and tired of being sick and tired and not having answers, or being blown off, when they go to the doctor and they express that they have certain symptoms, but their blood work is fine. All their labs come back normal. And, that happened to me. And I kind of chalked up all of my symptoms of just kind of being in my head, or a season of motherhood, like my chronic fatigue. I had fertility problems, and my fertility specialist simply said to me, like, all your labs are fine. It's just unexplained infertility. Like, I'm sorry. And so that's been something that I really focus on in my practice, is really diving. It's very comprehensive. I get a lot of your health history. We utilize lab testing. We utilize so many different things in order to really find the root cause and, validate that those symptoms are real and there are answers to them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that I want to stress to folks, is that, you have personal experience. So, you just didn't go and get educated and now you're teaching it. You've actually lived it. I think that's important. They think from real estate agents, you speak to a specialist about really anything, but real estate agents, has that real estate agent ever bought or sold a house? If you haven't really lived through it, some of us might think, well, how can you actually, teach it or train it, unless you've lived it. So, being a real estate agent, having invested in homes or bought and sold homes, or, had new homes built from new construction from the ground up, which, she can relate to because her husband is one of the guys that helped build my house. I think there's a lot to that. And it brings a lot of passion to the table from that perspective. And the other thing is, in our everyday busy lives, we're constantly thinking, exercising is the route to, getting in shape, when it's so many other things. And with having not a lot of time during a day, like myself, I find it hard, I just think, I'm exercising, that should be it. But if I was actually smarter and got maybe more to the root of the cause, then, and speaking to Jordan and finding out what actually is causing this. And I'm finding myself, as I get older, it's harder and harder to stay in shape, to lose weight and eat healthy. Because in the past, I never really had to worry about it. I was, being a soccer player, I ran all the time, and being in other sports, I could pretty much eat what I wanted to and stay. I shouldn't say in shape, because I was just weight wise, I was low on my weight. So for me, I was in shape. But probably I'm feeling that pain now later in my life.
When you get older, you have an ache and pain every time you move.
We won't go into that. But no, I think it's good that you get, every one of your plans is very unique to the person. And I can speak on that because my wife is one of your clients.
Yes.
And remind me, what is the name of the company?
Balanced Wellness Co.
Balanced Wellness Co. So I want people to remember that, because I think there's a lot of folks out there that, go through pregnancy and come out of that and their chemical imbalance has just changed. I'm no doctor, but I feel like that makes sense. Like things have changed inside your body. And, and sometimes you need a specialist, an expert that has been through it and has the education to be able to, maybe dig in and find. And I'm probably talking too much here. Let's
No, you're good.
Let's
I just want to kind of note on that is with kind of relating it to real estate is this one house isn't going to be the best fit for 5 different families.
Yeah, very good point.
And that's kind of the same that the approach that I take is one health plan. There's so much noise on the internet, and if you Google things, like there's going to be so much information, and one specific practice or therapy isn't going to be the best for every single person. And having that specialized, plan based on your symptoms, your health history, your lifestyle, the habits and things that you have going on personally, I think is a really important piece of the puzzle.
I still think somewhere on TikTok has all my answers. I know one of these days I'm going to flip to the ultimate answer of what I need to do. Kidding. All right. So, I mean, we'll talk about that. I mean, what would you consider maybe one of your ideal clients?
Yeah. So, I don't like to say that I have an ideal client of being like a female that is having troubles with her hormones, because I think that really limits, who I can help and who I can reach. And I've noticed over the past several months since my practice has been open that so many people have a lot of the same symptoms, but they're coming from so many different things.
Sure.
So my ideal client is somebody who wants answers, who's fed up with the doctor telling them that they're fine despite not feeling well. And somebody who, is ready to make change. I think it's really hard when we don't have the support from doctors, or not just doctors, but just support in general, to make those changes. And so my ideal client is really somebody who is open to change, open to learning, because I think knowledge is key. And one of the main things that I have noticed in my own healing journey is just the awareness that is lacking. I didn't know that chronic fatigue was something. It was a red flag for my body telling me that something was really wrong inside. And that doesn't mean that if you're chronically, if you're tired, that you might have something terrible like a cancer diagnosis, but it does mean that that's your body's way of telling you to kind of pay more attention and figure out exactly what's going on. So I work with mostly women, but I do have male clients, and I also am working with children too. Anybody over 3, I can work, and I've been doing lab testing on my own children, so they are kind of my guinea pigs. But
oh boy,
we've had some behavior, imbalances and mood imbalances that we've been, I know that they're young and they're going to be, hyperactivity is, obviously something that I can't totally mark up as like, oh, something's wrong with them. But, it's been interesting when I tested my son, like he had some heavy metal toxicity. And so when we detoxed him from the heavy metals and we supplemented some of his deficiencies that he had, his micronutrients, we've seen a world of difference in just a couple of months. So it's been really fun to, work with them. And I hope that I get an opportunity to work with more children in the future.
Well, if you're trying it on your own kids, I think you definitely believe in it.
Yes, absolutely. I've had a lot of personal experience, which we can talk about if you want, but I've learned a lot through my own healing journey and working with my friends and my family who allowed me to and trusted me to help them before I opened my practice. So it's been a really good learning experience, and I read a lot of medical journals. It's my guilty pleasure.
That's
Kevin's
the nerd part.
Yeah, that's the nerd part. He's like, "Are you reading your Kindle?" I'm like, "No, I'm reading a book on adrenal and thyroid function. I love it."
Wow.
It's like, put it down. I'm like highlighting,
Well, I don't think we're going to get a lot of comments for people out there that feel the same way about that, but that's great. I mean, you live and breathe your business, and I think that's important. Now, I know as real estate agents, and I can speak for myself, stress. Stress, it's a big issue, and I think it's probably in most everyone's life. I mean, do you have anything that, maybe you could offer, I'll say, people listening, but me?
Yeah, of course.
For that?
So stress is, it's been clinically proven to cause about 90% of the diseases that we have. And it affects our body at a cellular level. So it is very important. Of course, getting rid of stress is not realistic. And I would never tell anybody that, because it's just, we all have family, we have work, we have lives. But there are practices and some things that I do encourage people to implement in just their everyday life. It doesn't have to be huge, time-consuming things, but just going outside and getting sunlight, listening to calming music, putting away screens in the evenings, which I know is probably something that is a little more difficult for somebody like yourself.
I know.
Yeah. But, all of our nervous system really needs regulated. And when it's constantly going and going and going, because in our society, it's almost... I feel like sometimes it's almost like you've got it all right if you're busy all the time. And, that's not the case. Like, our body needs breaks. We need to set boundaries. And I know that sometimes that's easier said than done, but a 5-minute meditation in the morning when you wake up or before bed, sleep meditation, journaling if that's something that you enjoy, reading a book, picking up a book or just reading an article on your phone that just kind of allows your body to get out of its constant state of fight or flight. So those are all kind of tips and tricks.
Yeah, so let me think. Sunlight and no screens. Sounds like I need to go on a vacation.
Yeah, that's, you know what? We're a big traveling family. And ever since my my cancer diagnosis and all of my health stuff, I'm like, we have to go on vacation 3 times a year because it's really good for our health.
Darn.
Yeah. You know what? The sunlight thing, because I'm a much happier person in the summertime
100%
than I am in the winter.
We know.
Aren't we all? Yeah.
Especially, sitting in the sand.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, so in this day and age, after kind of post-COVID, I'd say, I mean, are you having to meet people in person? Are you able to do something, virtually? What do you recommend, and how can you be contacted?
Yeah. So right now the practice is 100% virtual. My youngest is not in school full time yet. So I really do love the flexibility that, obviously being an entrepreneur gives me. So right now I do meet with all my clients virtually, but it is a video contact.
Sure.
So we do, form great relationships. It's very personal. And, in the future we may have something that's in person, but right now the virtual, contact
works.
It works for us. Yeah. It's,
well, I mean, I'll interrupt real quick.
Yeah,
I mean, I know for my wife, I could speak for her because she is one of your clients. It works for her too.
Yeah.
Because she has the kids, she has a school that she's trying to deal with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole virtual is just, it meets her demands.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do offer, during the week, during the day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my practice days. But I do offer night appointments as well, because I do know that a lot of people work and a lot of people need those nighttime appointments. So I do try to make myself available. And if there's ever a time that they're really wanting to, better their health and work on their wellness, I will make myself available for them, because it is, it takes a lot of bravery and a lot of time and effort to do so. So I will meet my client wherever they need.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Are there any, so far in your, in your new business, are you seeing maybe an underlying theme of maybe a health issue that it's always there, or it's pretty dominant?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because when I first meet with clients, I ask, their symptoms. I want to know what's going on. Yeah. And sometimes people don't even realize that things are a symptom, but they're experiencing it and they've just lived with it for so long that they don't even realize that it's something that's problematic. So I'm seeing a lot of chronic fatigue, a lot of chronic stress, a lot of brain fog. And through testing, which we can talk about, it really has shown a lot of gut imbalances, which means overgrowth of bad bacteria in the gut, and sometimes not enough of the beneficial bacteria. Everything is about balance, hence the Balanced Wellness Co.
Sure.
But everything is about balance. And so a lot of gut imbalances, a lot of hormone dysfunction, an imbalance of hormones, and something that I've really noticed a lot that has been with, children, everybody that I've tested, just nutrient deficiencies. Yes, even some of my clients that have a great diet that on paper, I'm like, you're killing it. You're doing all the right things. But our food's not the same as it once was. Our soil's not the same as it once was. So people, most people aren't eating omega-3 rich fish 4 times a week. And so there are a lot of deficiencies that, like with building a house. Not necessarily having to eat that, but definitely supplementing, because omega-3 is an important, it's an important vitamin that your body needs. And so, just like a house, you can't build, a house on a crappy foundation. And the same thing with your health. And, if you don't have those basic foundational things in your wellness, it's hard to then build a healthy lifestyle that, is resulting in no symptoms or issues. So the nutrient deficiencies have been a huge one, and a lot of toxicity too, heavy metal, mold, which are all things that we would only be able to find through functional testing.
Yeah, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
Real quickly on the testing?
Yeah, sure. So functional testing is something that I utilize and I do recommend for most people. I recommend it for everybody really, but some people choose not to do it, which, 100% of my practice is patient-centered, client-centered. I want to support you in what I will give recommendations, I will give my knowledge, but this is your journey. And so I support you in that in 100%. But functional testing, it is different from blood work. Your standard blood work that you would get with your doctor, which is very useful, and I, still recommend people doing. But your blood work either shows that you're fine, you're within range, or that you're out of range and you have a disease, right? So functional testing is different in that we use saliva, we use urine, we use stool, we use hair samples, and those are all really great ways to get information, patterns, and trends that kind of lead to disease. So we're hoping that we're catching all of these imbalances before it becomes a problem, before we get the high blood pressure, before we get the diabetes, before we get those diseases. The functional testing is really going to show us information on our metabolic system, on our hormones, on our immune health, on our gastrointestinal health. So it's very comprehensive, and a lot of the information that we gather through the functional testing is information that we can't get through blood. So it is definitely, I think, the best way to really get a good comprehensive understanding of your body.
Yeah, so just listening to that explanation brought a good question to me, and that's one of our other podcasts. We had an insurance guy on here, and we made it sound important that you start with something early. You get into the insurance program early because it's what's cheaper and so forth. But you want to plan before something bad happens. A lot of times folks are, something bad happens and they're like, well, I wish I would have, gotten a policy. Well, I think this is kind of the same where, you might not be feeling entirely bad. You might just be curious. And I think having these tests and analysis done on your end might be proactive for something that is coming.
Exactly.
And because you don't want it, and maybe it's something that if you start, you can prevent it from happening because it's too late once it's happened.
100%.
And now, and then you come to Jordan and say, oh, well, I'm having, this is my big issue now, when it could have been prevented possibly, by talking to Jordan. So I think, there are listeners out there that are probably thinking, oh, well, I'm having this issue. Okay, well, there's also people out there, maybe you're not having a major issue right now. You might want to get on board with Jordan and get ahead of the game,
100%.
so to speak.
Well, kind of backing up to the whole insurance thing, is your services something that most major health insurance will reimburse on?
So I do not accept insurance, and there's a couple different reasons for that. But the most important reason, I think, is there's a lot of stipulations and a lot of regulations when it comes to insurance. Functional health is not as respected in our healthcare system as I hope it will be in the very near future. I think a lot of people are really starting to see there's a lot of health issues coming, the rise of obesity, the rise of disease. There's so many things that are, quickly evolving, and there's obviously a problem that we're not addressing well as a healthcare system. But I do have clients that pay with their health savings account card. So if you have insurance or through your employer, you have a health savings card, you're obviously welcome to use that to purchase. And there are things, for instance, like a vitamin D test that I will say to you, don't pay to do that with me. You know, you can get that through your doctor. Or, certain thyroid labs, doctors will likely, if you ask them, and I'll tell you exactly what to ask for, they will run those, and they can run those through insurance. So I do, really try to make it affordable because I know it is an investment, but I will say that it is the best investment you can make because like you said, Chris, people sometimes we, with fatigue or bloating or gas or, constipation, like we just kind of chalk these things up as like, I'll just take Metamucil. I'll just, eliminate all of these foods that cause me discomfort, when really, like, you don't have to eliminate every food out there that, like, you don't have to have a limited diet of 4 things. You just have to figure out why are those foods causing those problems.
Right.
And, I started having symptoms in my early 20s, and I didn't have a cancer diagnosis until a month after my 30th birthday. So it doesn't happen overnight. Like your body gives you signs, and you just have to pay attention to them. And just being aware of that certain symptoms aren't normal, like bloating. Like I just thought that when I had carbs, I bloated, and that was just don't drink beer if you wanted to not feel bloated type of thing, and that's really not
happening.
But that really, it wasn't the beer. It was, an imbalance in my body that after being ignored for so long, things just kind of, it was a snowball effect. And, then I landed with, a disease.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned beer, but I'll try to get over that one. But
Everything
what about
in moderation, right?
What about Reese's cups? We don't have to go food by food. I won't get into that.
I think a lot of times with modern medicine, they just push pills.
That is a common thing.
You get one symptom, they give you a pill. Then you develop another symptom, they give you a pill.
Yeah. And I by no means, I by no means disrespect the conventional medicine system. It saved my life, and I have an oncologist, and I still work with a team of specialists that are in conventional medicine. But I think you're right. Like there are a lot of times that you go to the doctor, and I personally, like after I had a major gastrointestinal surgery, I had half my pancreas removed. I had my stomach reconstructed. And so I had a lot of digestive issues. And one of the first symptoms I struggled with was acid reflux after my surgery. And I went to my gastroenterologist. I don't know. I went to my specialist, and she was like, here's some Pepsid. And I was like, I don't want to take Pepsid. Like, why am I having, can you tell me are there foods? I have my gallbladder removed as well? Like, is there something I need to replace because I'm missing like some organs? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And I just felt that she was kind of just giving me like a Band-Aid. And at that time I hadn't worked with a functional medicine practitioner yet, but after several months, and I kind of learned about functional medicine, and I started working with a practitioner, someone like myself. She was like, oh, the reason that all of this is happening is you have low stomach acid, you have an overgrowth of this. I mean, like, I did functional testing, and my results were horrendous. I mean, my stomach was a mess. My body was a mess. It had just undergone so much stress, and there were so many things that were just overlooked, and they wanted to give me Pepsid. So, there is a time and place for medicine. I'll never tell my clients to get off of their medicine. Right, like I think there's a time and place for everything, but using that as like an easy way out is frustrating, because now I know, and I know what you can do to make yourself feel better, and medicine isn't always the option.
Yeah, no, I think there's a big market out there for that, because there are people that feel pretty disappointed with their experience. Whether it's correct or not is up to debate, but I think they like having the personal, focused, one-on-one type of practitioner to help guide them down their path.
Right.
All right. So any facts or myths that you want to just bring up real quick that you've come to learn that maybe broccoli is bad for us?
Well, I hate to
Reese's
tell you.
cups are good.
I hate to tell you, still need to eat your vegetables.
Okay.
One of the things that I do want to debunk is that wellness has to be an all or nothing approach. I think when people get on TikTok or, whatever the platform is, and people are doing, everything right or everything wrong, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Making small changes every day, whether that's, just eliminating certain toxins from your home, or doing better at your meals by incorporating some extra vegetables, or incorporating vegetables at all. Like, a lot of people don't even have vegetables in their diet. And so just making a small change every day leads up to huge results. And so I just want to encourage somebody, if they're feeling, like their body's betraying them, or if they're feeling discouraged, or they just feel like they're too far in to even start making positive changes, that there's always a time and place to to just make small changes. And, if you need help or support or guidance or expert knowledge, like that's when you would work with somebody like me. But you don't have to work with somebody like me in order to make healthy lifestyle changes. Just small steps. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. I'm very type A, and I've always been in the mindset of like all or nothing. And one of the best lessons that I've learned in my own healing journey was that, healing is not lateral. There's a lot of peaks and valleys, but just doing something every day to better yourself adds up to, huge results. There's no quick fixes out there.
Yeah, no, unfortunately. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here, and I'm going to say, there's a lot of fads out there of, diets as I'm flipping through TikTok. Yep. So keep on that social media realm. The fasting is one that's kind of big. I hear a lot about, and a lot of different approaches to it. The no carbs, or, now I'm even hearing how running isn't the fastest way to lose weight. And thoughts on any of those?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. So as far as fasting goes, that is very controversial in the wellness field.
Is.
And I think it depends. And I think it depends what type of fasting you're talking about. There is a time and place for all different types of fast. There are certain fasts that I recommend and certain fasts that I don't recommend. Personally, and from the clients that I've worked with, and just from personal experience with fasting, I definitely think it's beneficial to have a 12-hour fast. But that's not something that is really outside of what most people are probably already doing. Right. You're eating
overnight
dinner at 6 o'clock, and then you're not eating breakfast until 6. That allows your liver and your body to be able to detoxify. So I definitely do recommend that. As far as anything beyond that, our bodies are really stressed out. Most people are stressed. And I think adding extra stress by not fueling yourself is really kind of setting yourself up for other, imbalances in the body, especially with hormones in women. And so I don't recommend, an 18-hour fast, or even 16 is pushing it. I recommend eating within an hour of waking up. Your body needs fuel. Otherwise, a lot of systems start wondering, like, when am I getting my next meal? And it's smart, and our bodies start responding and slowing down. And as far as the running or the no carbs, I don't know why they get such a bad rap. Like, if anything, I would think sometimes
everyone should drink as much beer as they can.
And I think that's where it comes into play of what kind of carbs,
Yeah, sure.
I obviously recommend limiting processed foods. I don't think starting your morning with cereal is a good idea. It doesn't give your body any fuel that it needs. But we eat sweet potatoes in my house like 4 times a week, and they're great for you, and they offer a lot of nutrients. So I don't think that carbs are bad. I think just having, nutritious carbs and having carbs that are not processed is the key there. As far as running, that's a really interesting, thing that you said about running and losing weight, because I think if we are going to, talk about different facets of exercise, running is a great exercise. I would rather somebody run than do nothing, right?
Very true.
But I also think that
although I like doing nothing.
Yeah.
More than running. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that if you like strength train. If that's what's going to get your body moving, do whatever makes you happy. And, you don't want to make exercising a chore or adding more stress to your life. It's not worth it. But I do think what's important to know about exercise, and what I try to tell my clients, is that you can't go balls to the wall 7 days a week. Your body, it's not made to do that. So there is, and that was a really hard lesson for myself, because I love to work out, and I was an all or nothing person. So it was either like you're walking or you're doing like the highest intensity you can. There was never an in between. And that leads to burnout. So I think whatever exercises you choose to do, whether that's running, whether that's strength training, whether that's Pilates or yoga, that we take breaks. We listen to our bodies. We really allow our bodies to recover and rest in between. So, depending on what your goals are would depend on what I would recommend for exercise. But, getting in steps and moving your body is important. So whatever that looks like and whatever you enjoy, I think is a great place to start.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very political way to answer those questions. So don't take any sides.
It's exactly. It's like there's no one size fits all,
No,
and that's
you're right.
And that's the thing about wellness and about functional medicine and functional health is that what is good for you is not going to be good for somebody else, or maybe it's not the best way for somebody else. So it is so personalized, and even nutrition, like all the diets that are out there. I have a really hard time, getting on board with that because the Mediterranean diet may be great for somebody, but keto may be great for a cancer patient. But like, I wouldn't recommend keto for any of us.
Yeah.
So it's very individualized.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because I can tell you're very passionate about it.
I do love it.
So again, I'm going to put you on a little bit of a spot, but
Okay.
maybe one or two tips and tricks for folks out there that maybe they could do to, maybe they don't have something that's specific that's going on with them, but just maybe to change their diet. I mean, would it just be you start eating your vegetables and put down the Reese's Cup?
Yeah. So I will say I have a sweet tooth and I do have a treat every single night. So there are better options than maybe Reese Cup. But no, so some things that you can do without working with anybody if you just want to kind of start on your health journey is just making sure that you are eating a healthy diet. And I know that's kind of, you've heard that a million times, but a lot of people, don't eat vegetables, or they wake up and they have their coffee before breakfast. And so something that I really recommend is just eating a well-balanced, focus on having a protein and a vegetable at every meal. And that does include breakfast. So whether that looks like throwing some spinach in a shake, or whether that looks like sauteing some spinach, or maybe you don't like vegetables in the morning, so you're going to double up at lunch. So just really focusing on like having a protein and a vegetable at each meal. Your body really does need protein for its metabolic function, for hormone production. It's really important. Stress management, which we kind of talked about, but, stress is it's inevitable. We're all going to have it. But, really just practicing some stress management tips like, the meditation and the reading, or getting outside for a 10-minute walk after you eat. Setting boundaries, saying no. You don't have to say yes to everything. That was, something that I definitely had to learn to do is I wanted to say yes to everything. And it's been so freeing.
I'm glad you said yes to the show.
Yes. Really prioritizing sleep and getting a good sleep hygiene.
If only my kids would listen.
Right? Yeah, I know. But really just, putting away screens an hour or two before bed to allow your body to really get calm down and on its, circadian rhythm is really important. And drinking water. So many people are dehydrated, and, it sounds silly because, again, something that you're like, oh, yeah, I do. But when I ask people, like, how much water do you drink? And they're like, oh, now that you've asked me that, like, not that much. So just staying hydrated, eating a well-balanced diet, exercising, resting. We're always so on the go. And
so I know you've got a lot of personal experiences, and going through this story that you're living right now. And but that story didn't come easily. How was your diagnosis determined?
So I kind of mentioned earlier that I started having random symptoms in my early 20s, but it wasn't until January of 2021. It's kind of like COVID had just we were kind of in the thick of it still. I had a, baby and a toddler at home. And I was so chronically fatigued that I could have fallen asleep standing up.
Really?
Yeah. And I went to the doctor. I had her test me for mono and Lyme and do, standard tests, and everything was fine. So at that time, it was really when I started listening to more podcasts and trying to figure out what was going on, because I wasn't getting any answers with my doctors. And then in summer of 2022, my symptoms really started becoming more life-threatening. My particular symptoms from the tumor that I had was hypoglycemia. Mm-hmm. And so I would have, I would randomly get blurred vision. And one of the first aha moment, I have to figure this out, was I was driving down 81 with my kids in the car, and I lost my vision. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And it's emotional because I was like, that I could have killed my kids,
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, so that time I went to the doctor the next day. I was like, so you've got to figure this out. And she did blood work, and my glucose was the only thing that was out of range on my blood work, and it was low. And she didn't really have any answers. She's like, you need to eat more, make sure you're having snacks, make sure you're eating before bed, don't go too long without food, dial down your exercise, all things that I was doing. And so fast forward about a month, my husband found me unconscious in bed, and he obviously called the ambulance. They took me to the hospital. They ran a bunch of tests, and everything was fine. They released me that day. So I went home, and they gave me a name of a specialist. I went to the specialist. They ran more blood work. He told me, his answer to me was, you need to eat more. And so I was like, okay, I'll do the best I can. Like I do not undereat. Like that is not an issue. And so
you eat more Reese's cups.
Yeah. So the next weekend, my symptoms were bad. I wore a CGM, which is a glucose monitor that checked my glucose every minute. In 1 minute it would be 90, the next minute it would be 30. And so it was constantly going up and down. And finally, one Saturday morning, it went off as I was eating breakfast. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to the ER. And I walked into the ER, and they were like, what are your symptoms? And I was like, my glucose is 45 right now. And everybody's telling me I'm crazy and that I'm healthy and something's not right. And so she was like, okay, you can take a seat. And they called me. And when I got back to my room, I was like, I want imaging done.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And I was like, no, I was just here last week. Like, I'm not playing this game. I want imaging. And so they did imaging, and that's when they found my tumor on my pancreas.
Oh my goodness.
And it was at that time I was admitted to the Winchester Hospital, but I was transferred to Nova Fairfax.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of advocating, and, I would like to think of myself as a very friendly person, but when it comes to your health, I mean, I had to really stand up for myself, and that came with a lot of, frustration and doctors telling me because I didn't look like I was sick.
Yeah.
But I mean, I almost died in my bed with my, my kids at home. And it was something that, had I not advocated for myself, I would have died at home.
Yeah, I think that hopefully resonates with our listeners, because, I mean, that's such a powerful message you just delivered there. Don't take things for granted that, the fact that you've lived through that and you have that experience, that could ultimately save someone's life.
Yeah.
Because you go see doctors, and just like we talked about how being a real estate agent, you need to have the experience. You've bought and sold homes. Some of the doctors, and there's nothing against them, they might just not be able to relate and be able to really understand and identify with some of the problems. And I feel like you can certainly reach that point with your clients. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, of course. It wears us down.
Yeah. No, I'm getting worn down already. So, hey, Jordan, all that was great information. For those folks out there that are interested in what you're talking about and want to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that? Do you have a website? Do you have an email that you would recommend they get in touch with?
Yeah, so my website is balancedwellnessco.org. And on there, it will have all of my personal story if you kind of want to learn a little bit about me, all the offerings that I do offer, the lab testing, the one-on-one health coaching, and it does have an option there you can contact me, which will send information straight to my email so I can reach out to you.
Okay.
I do have an Instagram page. It's balance.wellness.co. And that is just more of, you're certainly welcome to contact me through Instagram, but it's just more of, I share a lot of, functional medicine tips and tricks and information. Bringing awareness to my community is really something that I'm very passionate about, and just, sharing with people that, like I said, things that they may not think or even, they haven't even thought about, just bringing awareness to certain topics. So there, and then I do have an email, and it's info@balancedwellnessco.org. So I'm pretty easily accessible as far as finding me. It shouldn't be too hard, but I'm sure you'll link up some things.
Yeah. We'll
Cool.
take care of that. And,
Awesome.
and I'll just, reiterate, I know my wife, Nicole, who's part of this, and she's having, she's really enjoying it and sharing the word. because I know that she has folks, that friends and family that feel the same way. So
She's referred quite a few people to me.
So, I mean, there's a huge feeling out there, or market out there for folks that are really looking for more answers.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan has a good start on what people are looking for. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning into the Real TFC podcast. The key to success is knowledge and relationships and health. We'll add that one in there.
Thank you.
So please like, share, and subscribe, and catch you on the next episode of Real TFC podcast.